Welcome back to the channel here on Port Royal Gaming, live for your Thursday night. This is Retro Replay. Welcome to a new year of Retro Replay here on the channel. We've been doing this for 52 weeks of the year, and it's come full circle that we are ready to go around the sun, so to speak, one more time, and many, many more times to come. So I guess, welcome to a new season of Retro Replay. We've got a studio show for you tonight here. We're coming to you live from the Port Royal Network headquarters in, I'd say sunny far north Queensland, but not right now. We've got a thunderstorm hanging above us. Nexus here in the studio, and joining me as always is Zion here in the studio. Zion, welcome to Retro Replay Year 2, so to speak.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a year, but it has been. Here we are.
So what we're going to do tonight is do a bit of a studio show, just to bring it back in to talk about some of the things we got planned, talk about the year that's gone, and just one thing that we'd like to do is just to give you guys a bit of a closer look at to what we actually have, because we've got so much stuff in our collection. And don't forget, we record our shows from 2 studios, so we're going to be talking about the stuff we've got in this studio here at the Port Royal Network headquarters. And then down the line, we'll when we're recording a show from the Retro Room, which is Zion Studio, we'll do another video there from that one again. So let's get right into it, Zion. What are some of the titles that you can think of over the past year here on Retro Replay that were enjoyable, that, you know, can't wait to revisit?
Some standout episodes.
Standout episodes that you want to revisit, maybe.
Just off the top of my head, I think some of the standout ones that we did would probably be maybe it was one of the earlier ones when we did Super Mario Maker 1. I think that was one of our first streams that went for a while. I think we nearly went 3 hours on that one, and that one was just chaos throughout the whole episode with LeBron. He I don't think he had as good of a time as we did, but it was fun to see him play those levels and actually revisit some of them, because, you know, that's the whole point of Retro Replay, is we're revisiting old games, and it's a lot. It makes it a lot more special when those games include stuff that are actually personally retro to us. Playing some of the old levels that we made back in the day, and what are some other really good episodes? I think Wii Sports was another really good one. It's not often you see us sort of up and about, running around in the studio, but that was one that you did see us do that for, and another memorable moment in that one involving the bowling. I'm not going to go into it. Maybe go and watch the episode at the end just to see what I'm talking about there. But yeah, no, we've been playing some good games, some classic games. Every now and then I do like when we pull up some of the obscure stuff, like WrestleMania 21. As recently as last week, we played that modded Wii with some Mario Kart ROM hacks and stuff on it. That was odd. But yeah, that's some of the ones I've enjoyed.
Definitely, and also we've had a bit of a run of Grand Theft Auto recently, which was enjoyable to jump into. Looking to do a bit of San Andreas down the track, but we've got videos there of GTA 1, 2, 3 and Vice City on the channel. Some of the, going back to the early days of Retro Replay here in the channel, that Super Mario Maker was actually our series premiere. That was enjoyable, and then you had a run at Street Fighter Alpha Anthology and Retro Replay. We talking about obscure games. We had a dip into a little game called Dog's Life and Horses. That was 10 months ago. Haven't been back since. Don't want to. We had our first full, complete playthrough on Retro Replay in the form of Shrek Treasure Hunt, which is...
That was purely by... that was not meant to be a full playthrough. That's just a terribly short game. We beat it in 2 hours. That says a lot about it. 2 hours blind. Blind playthrough. You've never played the game before. It's your first time.
It's behind there. Let's get that out. There it is. So this is, so... And also, full disclosure as well, everything that we play here on Retro Replay 1UP is either on the back here or over at the other studio. But That's their Shrek Treasure Hunt.
We've not played it since,
And, well,
and if we do, then it's been 10 months too soon.
5 minutes under 2 hours, so 1 hour 55 minutes it took for you guys to get through that. And then, yeah, some of the other games, I mean, you look at Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure. We had a bit of a Star Wars run during the Festival of Star Wars. Another playthrough that we did, a series of Star Wars Obi-Wan, which I'm going to get to in just a moment.
That was one I really enjoyed too, especially because it was a brand new game. I've never played it before, and I don't think either of us had. So it was sort of a bit of a learning experience playing that game. And it's a Star Wars game on the original Xbox that we've never played before. I think our curiosity factor had peaked playing that, and it turned out to be alright. Pretty good game.
Just looking, I think it's here actually.
Might be back at the other studio.
And we're talking about the only Xbox original Star Wars game. It had that sort of look to it because the cover was green, Xbox being green. That was cool, I thought.
It just fits like
the aesthetic. That's what the word I was looking for.
I don't know if it's me, but when I think of Star Wars games, I just think they belong on Xbox. The green I think it just goes with it. Especially a game like Obi-Wan. Can you imagine that green cover with a blue case?
And speaking of that, obviously that covered the Episode 1 storyline, and that's another storyline that we've visited.
That was a recurring
over and over again here on Retro Replay, and of course, I think it crossed over to the entire channel as well. So, Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds is another game. We're gonna grab it out. This game right here for the PC. The PC. Age of Empires clone, no pun intended there. But yeah, this was fun playing this live from... Where was I that day? I was on the road. I was travelling down Queensland and I was somewhere pulled up by a pool in... I want to say Mackay, but I'm not too sure. I'll have to go back and look at the video. But yeah, that was fun playing that one. Revenge of the Sith. So yeah, we had a bit of a Star Wars of Clone Wars. We dipped into the Clone Wars fully.
Oh yeah, we played. Oh god, what are they called? The Clone Wars games on the Wii. It was a mixed bag of interesting and also shovelware territory, which is a term we've come to learn playing some of these games. Well, I was always familiar with the term, but
it just gained a lot more traction.
To actually live it and experience what shovelware really is. Those games where they licensed or quickly made just to make a buck off bargain bin sales.
And we've actually picked up quite a few of them here in the studio as part of it. We don't know if you guys can hear the rumbling that's happening outside our studio right now, but we're in the middle of a bit of a thunderstorm. So I'm confident that's not coming through, but yeah, that's what that is. We're not hungry, it's not our guts. Some of the other things that we did. So I wanted to circle back to the Star Wars Obi-Wan playthrough and the Shrek playthrough. Because moving forward now, one thing we're going to be doing here on Retro Replay as part of Port Royal Gaming is to start doing some playthroughs as part of Retro Replay every Thursday night. Just revisiting, going through and trying to complete the story and, trying to play games as we go by. So these are games that we're going to just pick at random that we think deserves to be on the episode, and games that could use our commentary over the top of it as well. So something to look forward to in the coming weeks, or, as Retro Replay goes into our second year. Are there any games off the top of your head that you think you're looking forward to and you're wanting to volunteer down the track to show up on Retro Replay?
There's a couple behind me. I can see one that I'm pointing to on the screen right now that I'm going to grab. I think we're due for a playthrough of this, because this is a game I could breeze through. I've played this game many times before over the years, and to the point where I played it through and collected every Power Star, but it's been a few years. Before the 64, I would have done it again on Mario 3D All Stars. But whether we do it on the console or maybe we check it out on the Nintendo Switch Online, which is another thing I played it through on, I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong there. Mario 64, just looking. Here's one I think we've had our eyes on. Simpsons Hit and Run. Because this is a game near and dear to us. We had this game back in the day. PlayStation 2 was the version we played, but Simpsons Hit and Run. Of course, it's a retro game. We love The Simpsons. It only makes sense.
And actually, we put a video up on TikTok and on Insta of The Simpsons Hero and got a lot of traction. So we're not the only ones who really love this game as well. So we got a few comments there, people saying they remember this game and that. So I'm gonna may even jump the gun here and just say that maybe that might be our first title that we start as a playthrough here on the channel here on Port Royal Gaming's Retro Replay. So I mean, if you're happy, let's lock it in starting next week here on Retro Replay. We're going to be starting our Simpsons Hit and Run playthrough. Any objections to that?
No.
Let's get this going. If you're looking forward to that, you need to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified for when we go live. But live every Thursday night, we're going to start that. Hopefully next week, and trying to play through that over a series. So, they're not going to be a full sit-down playthrough in one go. We'll break it up and might be able to, I don't actually know how long this game is. Have you ever played through the game?
Yeah, well, there's 7 levels filled with a bunch of missions. I don't think we'd be able to do it in one sitting anyways, because it is a fairly long game. There's a lot of story elements to it, all the cutscenes and dialogue between the characters that we'd definitely like to sort of take our time with. So I can see maybe two, maybe 3 sessions at it. Last time I played through this game myself was I think it was some PC version I acquired somehow that didn't have any of the cutscenes. That all the cutscene files were missing from the files, but it was the same game anyway. So I played through it all the way through. I think I 100%ed it because there's a bunch of collectibles you can get in each map, and I just played it till I had everything.
So yeah, I just had a look. So we'll probably get this done in about 3, 4, maybe 5 episodes, depending on how we run with it. So something to look forward to, I guess, coming up for the month of February into March. Excuse me. Oh geez. All right. So with that set and done, Simpsons Hit and Run playthrough coming to Retro Replay starting soon. All right. Next up, got a bit of an announcement to bring for Port Royal Gaming. So by the way, this is our main Port Royal Gaming channel. We have a secondary channel, which is an extension of this show, Retro Replay. It's called Retro Replay 1UP. You can search for it on YouTube and it should be able to come up, or you can type in in the address bar youtube.com/@ Retro Replay 1UP takes you to our channel. And it's sort of where all of our extra content goes and where we put all of our extra playthroughs, full playthroughs, little bonus content, and a series that we like to call Extra Life, where we get some old things and give it a new life here at the channel, here on the network. So check that channel out, because also we're going to be adding a lot more playthroughs to that channel and being a bit more active on there. And one show that we're going to be starting, I'm not sure when it's going to kick off properly, but we've sort of had a bit of a trial test run with it. It's the show that Zion, you're going to be hosting. It's Smash Bros. Melee with Zion. We had a bit of a pilot test run last, I think it was on Saturday, on Twitch, on our Twitch. You and Tsunami Papi, Tsunami, playing through that one. So, Melee with Zion coming soon to Retro Replay 1UP. So I'm looking forward to jumping into Melee and, you know, just doing a deep dive into Melee. Maybe weekly, maybe fortnightly. Depends on how we go. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Well, if you saw the tier list that we did of our favorite games of all time, you know it's number one on my list, and I've got some ideas for what we can do with that. I've always thought about doing like a not a 100%, but a lot of basically as much as you could do in that game from a fresh save. So like new save, we're gonna unlock all the characters, we're gonna unlock all the stages, we're gonna play all the event modes, we're gonna play through classic mode, adventure mode, all star mode, all that stuff, and then maybe just try a few things. Like one thing I've never done that I think a lot of people try when they stream Melee on Switch and Twitch and stuff is that they play things like the adventure mode with only one stock, which is extremely hard. I've been off and on going at it for many years. I've gotten pretty far, but I've still never done it. Maybe I'll be able to pull that off sometime here. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like All-Star mode. That's another infamously hard mode in Melee. I've only done it once, and it was years and years ago. Like we're talking maybe 5-6 years ago. And I just remember I was so like excited when I did it. I think I took a photo of my TV screen with like my 3DS or something, just to, cause I couldn't believe I'd done it. But yeah, Melee. There's a lot of things I can do with that game because it's a game I can just put on and just play with no sort of rhyme or reason, and not get bored. That's why I put it as my favorite.
Yeah, and so like I said, we did a bit of a test run, bit of a trial, bit of a backdoor pilot on our Twitch channel. By the way, follow our Twitch on Port Royal Gaming. I don't actually have the link on the screen there. I don't know, fix it up. See the link on the screen at the new layout. So that's one show we got coming. Like I said, we do the other shows over there about bringing new life to older items. So there's going to be a new episode thrown up there within the next maybe even tonight, maybe tomorrow, because you've got a new item that you've added to your collection.
Yep.
Without giving too much away, tell us a little bit about, maybe just hint at it, tease about what we're going to expect for when this video goes up.
I'll put it this way, and I think I say this in the video because, behind the curtain a bit, it's pre-recorded this one. I've filmed it back at the other studio, and we like to call it, what's the thing I'm thinking of? Extra life or something, whenever...
Extra life, yeah.
Is what I'll explain as, when we're sort of giving something another look. Let's say that you could technically call it this, but at the same time you couldn't, because of the condition of this item. So
it's sort of a new life. Well, not a new life, but the first life for it.
Yeah, it's really nice, this thing, and I wanted to sort of show it off much more in the video, and you'll see it when it's uploaded. I do eventually show it off a bit, but it's something that, like, when you're actually looking at it with your eyes, it's just like, this thing is so good.
So keep an eye out. It's a Retro Replay 1-Up, our extra bonus content, I guess, our expansion. Let's call it the expansion pack channel to this show, Retro Replay. Subscribe to it, follow it. We also are on Instagram. We do an Insta page. The link's on the screen right there in the bottom corner. So yeah, check out all that great content. Alright, so that announcement's out of the way. We're going to start that new Smash Bros. So by the way, that's going to be for Retro Replay 1-Up. And I think we'll do clips of it or whatever. So we do a Port Royal Smash channel here as well in the network. So maybe some clips from that show will get uploaded over on Port Royal Smash. See how we go, see how it all plays out. But very exciting things to look forward to. Okay, so our next order of business is probably the main part of our show tonight, as we're doing a bit of a studio show here to kick off the new season of Retro Replay. And what we're going to be doing is giving you guys a bit of a closer look as to the things that are behind us. If I could just switch over here, and that's a more of a clear look as to the set that's behind. So we uploaded a couple of videos the other week where we basically did a bit of a studio tour of here at the Port Network headquarters and over the retro room. So we're going to do tonight here at the HQ, where we've got some items behind us. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and have a bit of a chat about what we've got behind us, and if there's anything standing out, we'll just grab them and have a chat. I think what we'll do is we'll start with our consoles. Because you can see on screen there we have 1, 2,
Got a
3, 4, 5. 5 consoles on screen.
Not that one. That's a fridge.
That's a fridge. We've got a few more modern consoles, but this is retro replay, so we'll talk about some of the retro stuff. I think that Nintendo 64 may be unplugged, so you might be able to pull it right out. Let's just carefully... No, it's plugged in. Alright, that's alright. Nintendo 64. Let's start with that one, I guess.
Yeah.
I've got 2 here at the headquarters. You've got 1.
I've got one that I've had for about, I'd say, it's 2023. It'll be about 12 years since I've had one.
Smash Bros. And actually, let's just, before we get into the backtrack just a little bit, why don't we just, where did gaming start? Like, which console did gaming start for you? And what are some of the earliest games that you remember that was just like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can count it because I think I was a little too young to actually play it myself. But the first console I can remember, sort of in my household, was the PlayStation 1. We had that. I remember watching my dad play stuff like I think it's V-Rally. We used to have this game. I'm pretty sure you might remember it. It was some sort of track and field sports game that I still to this day don't remember exactly what it was called or what it was, and it's something I'd love to find because I can sort of vaguely picture the game in my head, but it's literally a game I haven't seen since I was like that young. But the PS2 would have to be the first console that I actually played a lot of myself. I think even I used to watch when I was still a bit younger, before I was properly playing it. I'd watch my dad play stuff like the first Kingdom Hearts game. There's a Donald Duck game. I forgot what it's called.
Donald Duck game.
I think it released on like 64 Dreamcast and PS2, oddly enough. But then eventually I'd play stuff myself. Of course, when I was little, I loved Hot Wheel cars. Going Quackers.
Going Quackers? Quick Google search.
Yeah, that's literally a game. Like, I just randomly remembered it a couple years ago. I was like, holy crap. I did used to see this game. We used to have it. Some of the stuff we played on stream, like Disney Extreme Skate Adventure. Burnout 3 was a big one. I was very, very obsessed with that game as a kid. Simpsons Hit and Run, another one I used to play. Surprisingly enough, a lot of sports games like NBA Live and Tiger Woods PGA Tour. Games that I think, when it comes to sports games, they hold up very well. And I think it's great that I can say I'm fortunate enough to have played games like those that hold up so well. Eventually, so I went from the PS2 to the Wii, and from there on it was stuff like Wii Sports, Zelda Twilight Princess, Mario Galaxy 2, Smash Brothers Brawl, all that stuff. But actually, I should mention, what really kicked it off for Nintendo for me was Mario Kart 64. That was like probably the biggest game of my childhood. I played it for the first time. We didn't even play it on a console. We played it on an emulator called Project 64, which I got off you. And
that's right.
Yeah, once I played Mario Kart, like, it was over. Like, I had a USB that just had this emulator on it, and it had a little, like, a tag on it that you could write, like, a name or something on it. But I wanted Mario Kart 64 to be written on the USB, because I'm assuming it's the only game I wanted to play on it. But from there, that sort of introduced me to the N64 and what it had. I started playing games like GoldenEye. Ocarina of Time was a big one to play through. I think I played Ocarina of Time for the first time probably around, I want to say 2008. So about 10 years after it originally came out. But that was one of the games that just hooked my imagination as a kid, and I played it through almost to the end, I think. Probably, I got up somewhere, but all that led to me wanting to get an actual 64, which I did get. Like I said before, probably going on to about 12 years now, it's been, I think. And the 64, just my obsession with that console, it still is like, it might be still my favourite console of all time, just because of all the memories I've got with it at this point. But it really did kick off sort of my retro collecting, because I would move on to a Super Nintendo, get a bunch of games for that. I wound up with an NES, PlayStation 1, and then as recent as up to the past year, it's actually, it's probably almost been a year. It's probably been about 10 months or so since I started really getting into Sega consoles. And this thing right here, the Dreamcast, was the first Sega console I bought. And I've gone on to pick up the Saturn, collecting games for them nowadays. And so it's all, that pretty much catches us up to present.
Yeah, good. It's just like a journey that like you said, you were introduced first to Nintendo 64, and that sort of opened the world, and that's a testament to the console itself. I mean, like a console that someone picks up, and then they want to know more about this world of gaming, this retro gaming.
I really don't know what it was about the 64 that just drew me in, or just retro gaming in general. Like whenever I'd see anything about retro games on TV or whatever, I would just be hooked. Like, I remember the Wii, when they announced Virtual Console, that was like a huge deal to me. I was like, what? I can play 64 games on the Wii? And yeah, it's just a weird obsession. Like I said, I had a Wii. I didn't get another next-gen console until the Wii U. So I wasn't really too big on modern gaming for a lot of my time. Just a strange obsession with retro stuff.
And when you flash forward to today, I mean, like you said, the Virtual Console and that, but what about when the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack was announced, adding Nintendo 64 titles? That also had that same effect with a lot of people saying, oh well, I'm going to be able to play Nintendo 64 games on the Nintendo Switch. And I think that hooked a lot of people as well to sign up for the membership, and also help the Switch online, their online, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head or anything like that, but I bet they had a big influx of subscribers to that service.
Well, we're two of them, so.
And that's right, we are two of them. And the one thing that's not in this area right now, but I wanted to bring it out, but I've got the box that I'll show. Oh, it doesn't have any pictures on the box, but to the point where I actually got this Nintendo Switch Online Nintendo 64 controller. No, I think it might be in one of the other rooms. That's all right. So playing Nintendo 64 games on the Nintendo Switch using the actual console, and it's 1-1. It's the same dimensions. The only upgrade is that it's wireless, and it's got obviously the capture button and the home button on it as an added feature as well, because you can use it as a controller for other games. So that's, it's still having that effect to this day. So that's a good testament to the Nintendo 64. I like to look, it sort of reminds me of, so as a movie fan and as a fan of the Marvel Cinematic, you don't find any more of a bigger fan than MCU than myself. You can see with the Marvel sign out the back. But a little known fact is that for me, my MCU started with the Avengers. It was the first Marvel movie I watched, MCU movie. I was a big fan of Spider-Man, everything before it. But when I watched the Avengers, I had this, I immediately was hooked. and I decided, oh, okay, I need to go and watch all the other movies leading up to this, and then, as you can see, big influence. So that's what that story reminds me of, having that exposure to one thing and then takes you into the rest of it.
That was a big one.
So for me, my first console, I mean, I've had the Nintendo 64. I do remember owning a SNES at the time, but for me, I'm going to count the 64 and the original Xbox as the consoles that introduced me to gaming. But the console that really... So if that was an introduction and then you rope the PlayStation 2 into that, but the console where I really started to appreciate games and really started to get it was the Xbox 360. By that time, that era came around. Getting hooked in games like the Elder Scrolls Oblivion. What are some of the other 360 games that I just can't remember right now? But all the WWE games, SmackDown vs. Raw at the time. And then having the backwards compatibility of having the Xbox games be able to play on that as well. Also, was at Mercenaries, Knights of the Old Republic. But that's when I started to really appreciate games for what they were. And so for my console history, it would be 64, PS2, the original Xbox. I had a PSP, and we've got a PSP here
I should have.
in the studio. This is a fun fact. This is the most recent addition to my collection. Is this PSP, which I found at a op shop in Townsville, 3-hour drive south of where our studio is. So I do remember having that. And fun fact, our editor Lily LeBron tried to offload his PSP Go to me, which doesn't work. And I think there was some sort of exchange we did, Lily. I don't remember what it was. I'm sure it had something to do with mango smoothies at the time. But anyway, I digress. So that one, and then 360. And then I sort of stuck with Xbox from there on. So I had the 360, went to the Xbox One. And then I decided to add a PS4 for the sole reason of... what did I add? It was The Last of Us. The Last of Us and God of War were the two games that got me to buy a PS4. And I pretty much summed it up on the Letterboxd video we did recently on, I think it was this channel, maybe the other channel, one of the channels, where we talked about our top 10 games. Last of Us is number one for me. So maybe buy a console and make my, go over to PlayStation, and I think that's a testament to that. System seller. And I've stuck with, so right up to the fact that I decided to keep going with the PS5. And I've got the, there you go, look at that. That's a Series S controller. The PS5 controller there. Plus the OLED Switch, so I'm a bit of a gamer, so to speak. Alright, let's go console. This is something, this is a studio show, we're just going off the fly, just talking about games, talking about what our history with games. Let's do something which I think is cool. Let's go through and we'll list our console, and then we'll pick our favourite game from that console one by one.
Okay.
Alright, so I'll go with my first console was Nintendo 64. My favourite game on the console is...
We've got some games to show off for it.
Let's get to that first, shall we?
These are ones from my collection that I started building up once my N64 craze kicked in. It's not all of them. We'll get to it when we eventually do an episode like this over at the other studio. But yeah, I've got plenty more. This is just ones that I've brought over here that a lot of them were thinking about doing playthroughs and stuff for, like we were talking about just before. But yeah, I've got a pile of them here in this, which I actually I don't think I've really mentioned or showed this off before. What I like to store these in is, now I wouldn't know what year this came out, but this was given It was given to me by a cousin of mine who would have had this sometime in the 90s. This looks like Mario 64 era, like maybe 96 or 97. But it's a Mario lunchbox. Like, I don't know why I've never really thought about how cool the fact that I have this is.
The tag doesn't say anything on it.
International Nintendo licensed product, no year.
Let's have a look.
But it is a lunchbox. You can tell by the inside of it. I think we actually washed it like in the sink once as I was cleaning the games out. I mean, it's supposedly an official Nintendo product. There's some sort of tag in there created by AZ Designs with a Z.
We'll just see if we can actually
there's
find
the
the
tag.
Google.
There's a Donkey Kong Country one as well, maybe.
Born 1993, made in China. So yeah, we're just trying to do a quick Google search.
Oh, there you go.
Can't
That
see
looks
the
like a Donkey
screen.
Kong Country version there.
There you go. Yeah,
That looks like the same style, but it's Donkey Kong one.
There you go.
The Mario, that's the same Nintendo tag on this one. Yeah, that looks the exact same, just different design.
It's saying 1993.
Damn. Maybe this was then, but just by looking at that logo,
$160 it says. So
that really looks like the same logo as this one. Wouldn't you think?
hey.
The wooden block
Oh, this is the
style.
This is the Donkey Kong Country box we're looking at.
Yeah. And DK, that's a Super Nintendo, obviously.
Yeah, that'll be that. So
N64 games.
So yeah, my first console, a Nintendo 64, and for me, my favorite Nintendo 64 game, it has to be. Huge fan of the film series. Geeked out, marked out when they announced it was being re-released on the Game Pass. So you probably guessed it by now. I did a whole episode of my Monday night show around this game. And that game, GoldenEye 007. It's... When I go back and played it on Monday night, it was like, yeah, this is exactly how I remember it. And look, that's the thing about gaming is that, and I think that's one of the benefits of re-releasing games that are upscaled, and when they modernize control systems or whatever, things like that, when they enhance it, because your memory of games are different to how games actually were.
Yeah.
But when you get a game like GoldenEye and what they did on the remaster, which still is buggy, still has a little bit of issue talking about the sound and all that, but I was able to just pick it up and play it for, I think it was about a 4-hour stream, and it just flew by like nothing, despite the frustrations.
There were some highs and lows.
Despite all that, at the end of it, I felt like, yeah, I got through it, and that was fun.
Triumphant in the end, though.
It was fun, and that's what I liked about this game in the day. And the multiplayer, I remember, the 4-player split screen multiplayer. I'm actually keen to try and get some of our editors together and having a go at that at some point in the future, maybe for a Retro Replay 1-up. But yeah, GoldenEye 007 is probably my favourite Nintendo 64 game. Yeah, that's mine. What's yours?
This isn't a favourite, but I just want to bring it up.
Honourable mention?
You can't bring up GoldenEye without mentioning Perfect Dark. That's like... It's graphically really impressive. It's unfortunate that maybe it may have been a little bit too advanced because of the 64, a lot of games do suffer from frame rate kind of issues, and Perfect Dark's definitely one of them. Like, it looks gorgeous, but man, there's a lot of slowdown in a lot of the areas of the game. Mario 64's up there. I just want to show this off. This is the cartridge. So when I got my 64, or just before I did actually, a friend of mine in primary school who did still have one, but was looking to get rid of some games. He actually gave me 4 games. The 4 first 64 games I owned were GoldenEye 007, Hot Wheels Turbo Racing, Banjo Kazooie, and Mario 64. And this is actually the cartridge he gave me. So the stickers are a bit dirty, as you can tell, a bit worn and faded and scratched or whatever.
Product of the years.
But yeah, this cartridge contains my 100% completed save file on it. So even though it's old and scruffy, it's just got that sentimental value to me that I don't even mind that it looks that way. But it's the N64. It's already a wrap. These two, you can't separate them, or at least I can't. I think these are like landmark games. Perfect. I think they're perfect games. Well, Majora, maybe. If you're not someone who doesn't, if you don't gel with the whole timed aspect, like the 3-day system or whatever, then maybe it might not be one you enjoy as much. But I still think Ocarina of Time is the greatest video game of all time. It's just there's something about it. Like, I think I went into detail on our tier list video, so I won't go too far into it here.
Yeah, check out. We did a video ranking our top 10 games. By the way, I'm going to put a link in the description below if you want to check that video out.
Although, spoiler alert, these two are on there for my list. But yeah, it's just like, I just get like a real sense of like comfort playing this game. It's like, the term like comfort food, this is like my comfort video game. Like, I played this to the point where I 100% and unlocked everything. Every now and then, I'd just boot the game up and sort of just run around Hyrule and just go and visit some of the places on my finished save file just because I enjoyed doing it. I think the Hyrule in this one is just... Obviously, it's not as big as it probably used to seem the first time you play it through. And to those who saw it for the first time, probably back in the 90s. But, yeah, it's just a game that I could pick up and just play through it at any point. I'd never get sick of it. And yeah, that's Ocarina of Time for me.
And with you bring that up, I would probably say for me, this was the game at the time when I'm playing Nintendo, but for revisitability, or whatever that word is, when you go back and revisit titles, hindsight and replayability, I think that's the word I'm looking for. Definitely Zelda for me as well. Yeah, that goes without saying. Two of the best games. You put them side by side, because the story flows from one to the other. So definitely wanting to put a playthrough of those games on the channel as well. I think that'll be cool. Okay.
Maybe just run through some of the ones we've
got.
Yeah, here.
We've got a bit of a collection here.
We've got a fair few. So one that when I was there goes one. Don't worry, it's probably, what was it?
Tony Hawk.
It's Tony Hawk 2, which is a classic. I should point out. I should pick it up. Tony Hawk 2. I got into Tony Hawk games on the GameCube with Tony Hawk 4. And it wasn't until probably the last 5 years or so that I got into the rest of them with 1 and 2 on the 64. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire is a game pretty near and dear to me. This was the first boxed N64 game I've got. The box is back in the other studio. I just threw it in here because I think we planned to play through many times for this game.
We did. We just do apologise. I had technical issues every time we tried to do it, so we'll get there.
When I was like really getting into Star Wars, yeah, that was a game I played a lot and I really, really enjoyed. Super Mario Golf. I think the Mario Sports titles on the 64 were highlights. Because nowadays they're kind of like, I don't know what the word is, sort of a bit plain, I guess.
I'll describe them as still good, but I'll describe them as empty.
Empty, yes. They're very... they just don't quite have the literal content, but also...
the heart and soul of those original games.
Yeah, they feel a bit void of that.
And I think also the newer games seem to focus a lot on the gameplay elements sort of thing. Like motion and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas those older games had those heart and soul of the characters. So that's
Big fan of fighting games, and this was. I'm gonna say this was the first. No, it wasn't the first Mortal Kombat game I played. I think the first one I actually owned for a console was Mortal Kombat 1 on the Super Nintendo. But Trilogy was a big one because it's a very popular one in the community. Of course, I have to have a copy of this because it's the game for me that got me into all of this in the first place. There's the two Zeldas already, Perfect Dark. This one I got pretty recently and I still haven't even played it yet because I'm a massive fan of the original and I've heard really good things about this, but I've just haven't gotten to it yet. There's so many other games we're playing. What have we got in the background here?
oh, that's where I got some of the shelving up the back there.
Still got some on display here.
You
Got
see,
some
as you can see,
wrestling
there's
games.
heaps of stuff on the back there.
Because we're wrestling fans. Couple of WCW, a few actually. Because there's Revenge, World Tour, and Mayhem.
Is
One of many
not
copies
here.
of Episode 1 Racer that I've ended up with in my time. I think I've got like 3 or 4 of these, like not even kidding, that I've just ended up with just from different collections and stuff that I've been buying. But obviously, yeah, we'll get to it. There's plenty more. Obviously, Smash 64, I showed that off before. That's sitting in the console there. You can see it. There's plenty more games to go through with the 64 because I think out of all the retro systems, it's definitely the one I've collected the most games for. And
Yeah, I was going to say, once we get the video over at your studio, we're going to see a lot more of these titles. But just to touch base quickly also, WWF No Mercy is also another game
Yep.
that I put a lot of hours in.
no, that might be back at the,
Yeah, I think it's yours. It's not.
I've got the. Actually, you know what? We'll get there when we get.
We'll get there when we get there. But just quick mention of WWF No Mercy and extend that to 2000. And I even have memories of owning Attitude. But for me and a lot of other people, WWF No Mercy was where it was at. To quote Kevin Nash, where now I lost the quote. Where the big boys play, look at the adjective. We weren't there to
We're
play
at the
No
big
Mercy to
boys.
play.
Look at the adjective. Play.
We're not there to play.
It's not an adjective, Kevin.
Yeah, that's
It's a verb.
yeah. Let Kevin go. He's a big guy.
I like Kevin Nash though. He's cool.
Yeah, that's K Nash.
Nashy.
All right, moving on. Any last comments about the 64? Like I said, this is one of 2 videos, so down the track I'm going to do another video. So we're going to revisit that again.
It's a memory card that you put in the controller.
Yeah, we've got a few controllers in that here. And yeah, it's just set up at the back there.
I bought one pretty recently. A controller that had like a refurbished stick on it. I'm just trying to find it. Maybe it's in this Nintendo. It's just out of frame from the shot here, but underneath this row of games here, we've actually got some baskets filled with controllers and cords, etc., all that kind of stuff.
With the accessories.
Yeah. Take it back.
Good one there.
Here's one I picked up pretty. Actually, no, this will be one of my older ones. Now you can tell this one's old when you look at the nasty yellowing on it. It's a bit hard to see in this light, but I'll grab another one for comparison. You can sort of see it now. This one is supposed to be this color, but unfortunately it's not.
It looks like a completely different color.
Yeah.
And that's one of the unfortunate. I don't know what it is. Do you know what the I don't know if it's a scientific reason behind it or?
There is, it can happen to consoles. It happens to the Super Nintendo and the Dreamcast a lot, where they will go yellow. The actual reason for it, I'm not too sure. I know I used to keep these in a previous place I was living. They used to stay in a cupboard that used to get very hot, and I'm wondering if maybe something set off in the plastics could cause them to do this.
Must be something in the plastics because when you feel it, it's different plastic to what they use now.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because this yellow one here is actually my very first controller I got with the 64. I remember because someone had coloured in the black Nintendo thing. Actually, I think I might have got it off the same friend who gave me the games, but that's my 12-year plus controller I've had. They all still work, but
You know, see for the sticks also were not the most sturdy.
no.
Which is that's at the time they were great, and there was still no complaints about them, but they're just products of the time. Like it was a different time; they used different things to build with. Whereas nowadays, obviously, they're using these harder plastics and other types of plastics as well with the consoles and making the sticks. Though not, they still have their problem. You can still get a controller that has controller drift, but not. It's not as often as you would think. Okay, that's the Nintendo 64. What were we doing? We were going just through the years. So Nintendo 64.
Should we kind of just chronologically go? So maybe we go on to the PS1.
Yep.
Which I'll go grab one.
We do have a PS1 here, just on display on one of the mantle outside. So talking about the PS1, I did have the PS1 at the time, and there's a game that I've got here. I'm gonna grab it right now. Actually, I'll get Zion to grab it when he gets back. But there are a few games that I recall on the PS1 that I have fond memories of playing. Obviously, like we'll just put it out there as a wrestling fan, WF SmackDown 2. So we'll skip over those because they were fun. They were going from No Mercy to SmackDown was, I wouldn't say refreshing, but it was different, and for its own good reason. Each game's different and has their pros and has their cons, but playing SmackDown still a whole lot of fun. So there's that PS1
This
console.
do they call this the PSX? Because there's this model. This was like one that come out after. The original's a lot more square. That's the one I remember having, that we had back then.
I used to have a deck of playing cards, and the tin was the shape of that.
Yeah, well,
think I have it.
we've got one. I do have one now, back in the other studio.
Oh yeah, so we'll see that there. So I believe that was the PlayStation. They call this one the PSX, or the name that's written on is PS1
PS1.
in that sort of font.
So I wonder, did this come out after the PS2, or did this?
I'm just trying to think of the timeline there.
Did they make this when the PS2 was already in the books for them?
Okay, so let's have a look at our
Because
trusty search.
The PS1 had hell of a shelf life. I think what's the last game? It's like FIFA 05 or something.
It
Ridiculous like
ran right up. Okay, so the PSX is its
2000.
code name
Yeah, PSX.
of the PS1. So that's that. What?
So it came out in DualShock Analog Control Memory Card. The redesigned PS1 2000.
2000.
So yeah, it came out the same year the PS2 did.
Yeah.
So it must have been like sort of a budget kind of remodel, kind of like how you end up with different models of like the Sega Genesis and the NES for that matter. You had like the Nintendo, I don't know what they called, like NES2 or something.
Of course, the Xbox One came out, the big bold black console, and then the Xbox One S. There's a couple of other models in between that, but the Xbox One S is the first real slim console. I had the PS3, and that's the thing. PlayStation are sort of the ones that are known and have that track record of slimming down their consoles as they go on. There's a memory card.
Memory card and
There's the PS1
a controller that because they're compatible with the PS2 as well, we use it for the PlayStation 2 here in the studio.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with them, the DualShock PS1s.
That's DualShock 1 controller, that's called, and
We've got some, what do they even call the first ones?
I think they're just this PlayStation controller.
Yeah, we've got a couple of those to show off. Not here, of course, but the DualShock.
Yeah, I think it's PlayStation controller.
controller.
Just that's it. And the DualShock obviously alludes to the name because it vibrates the first time vibration. Well, I don't know if it was the first time. No, the Rumble Pack added.
Oh, as in like consoles in general.
But then, yeah,
The
consoles.
64 had the rumble. I think that was first with the rumble pack.
That was first.
The Star Fox 64 must have come out in 1997 or 8.
Yeah, but then if you look at consoles that were built into the controller, that's most likely that controller right there, the DualShock one. And I like the name DualShock. I mean, it's
Cool sounding name.
a cool sounding name. It alludes to that it's got two vibrating things in the handles. DualShock.
It stood the test of time when it comes to naming things, because a lot of time, especially around that new millennium era, kind of just like either the lingo just becomes extremely outdated, or
Yep.
it just sounds like a product of its time. But DualShock still sounds like something that'd come out today.
And they reinvented the wheel, so to speak, when it comes to the PS5, because now we don't have the DualShock anymore. We have the DualSense, which is this controller right here, the PS5 DualSense controller. It just talks about the haptic feedback and all that, but yeah, that's, and if you look at, you got that controller there, the layout.
I've called it.
There we go. Look, we can get a side by side shot, right, like just like that. It's all the buttons there, the basic layouts there. As a matter of fact, just in front of you, you'll see the PS3 controller, the DualSense 3, DualShock 3, sorry. Check that out. Basically the same layout. The only difference are the triggers at the back. They're a little bit different. You got the button, the PlayStation button on the front, but basically the same layout. The PS4, there is a PS4 controller here somewhere. I don't think it's in here though. It's out there. But
that one,
you get the same sort of idea. They all have that same layout, that same essence of what the controller is. The PS4 adds the touchpad, which carries over to the PS5. I actually thought this was getting back triggers that they were working towards, but yeah, it's all wireless now. And I was just, while we were going onto the PS1 console, there are two games that I remember playing that have very fond memories, and they're actually here in the studio. So I'll get you to grab them as I call them.
the games we should probably
Yeah,
show
we'll
some of
get
those
to the
off, because
games.
We've got some here. I'll try to get these in one go.
They're coming out. There they go.
So is Trippy Trades.
Oh, hang on. Shout out to our friends down, and this is we had a well, I went to Melbourne, and shout out to you guys down there at Trippy Trades. Flip it around,
QR
you can
code
find
there.
the QR code, socials, all there. The guys looked after me really well when I was down there. Actually, there is a game that I bought there for the PS1 in a loose console. It's right here. It's in a loose console, loose disc. Grand Theft Auto, and I got some other things. I don't remember off the top of my head what they were, but they were very friendly, very helpful.
There's not too many PS1 games here, but so we can probably run through them all, yeah.
So Simpsons Wrestling and Die Hard Trilogy. I do remember playing Simpsons Wrestling when I was little. Didn't think too much of it. It was fun at the time. We've revisited it again, and yeah, happy to just remain a display item.
Something about that Bart just kind of seems off. I don't know if it's maybe the size of his face or something.
So this is Die Hard. I found this in an op shop, which I thought was pretty cool. The movie fans are going to come after me, but I haven't seen any of the Die Hard movies.
Yeah, like
It gets talked about a lot. Christmas movie.
I'm sure I've watched like one of them on TV. Like probably the first one. I'd probably just zone down on the couch watching it when it would come on television. But yeah, I can't say. Like I remember. Do you remember it being a big deal when was it Die Hard 4 or something came out years ago?
Oh, and
Where it was like a return
you get those
to the franchise.
return, and I didn't take up their offer to return or even get started into it. Every year it's on Christmas movie lists, so I know it's set at Christmas. I know the name John McClane's the guy, the Bruce Willis guy, but I'll check it out one day. I'll check it out. All right, what else we got there? Oh, there's the SmackDown games. Both came out the same year. One at the start of year, one at the end. They're
that
fun.
was
They're
quick.
a lot more. They laid the foundations to what the SmackDown series and the WWE video game series would become. To this day, I mean, there are some elements, though very, very scarce in the current games, but there are elements that survived right up until 2K20. So, what else we got there? Now, I remember playing The Lost World when I was small, and once again, not thinking anything of it. So when I saw it on eBay again, I thought, oh, I've got to get this game just to have. So we did do a playthrough of this.
DreamWorks Interactive.
DreamWorks published. DreamWorks didn't actually do the movie. It was Universal.
Strange.
So yeah, The Lost World, I thought it was just a fun little thing. Treasure Hunt, you can tell us a bit about Treasure Hunt, or maybe choose not to.
I think we went into detail before when we talked about the playthroughs and stuff. So
I think that's as much as you
we
can
will
talk
be-
about it.
We will be moving on. Tomorrow Never Dies.
Okay, so Tomorrow Never Dies. I remember coming out, and I do remember playing this game at great lengths and playing through it. So you had GoldenEye come out. As a matter of fact, did this come out before? No, it didn't.
GoldenEye was pretty late.
GoldenEye was 97, was when this movie came out.
2 years after. Yeah. This game apparently has a copyright year of 1999. I'm seeing 1998 and 1999 written on the back here, so.
One of those 2 years, but I remember playing this game and thinking it was a lot of fun. Third-person Bond game. Alright, what do we got there? Okay, so when I'm talking about two games that I remember playing, those are the two games on the screen right now. Driver 2 and World's Scariest Police Chasers. You've had a bit to do with World's Scariest Police Chasers.
Yes, we used to play this one a little bit back in the day. Because I remember you specifically, the two PS1 games that we used to play a lot for some reason. Like, you had all sorts of games, but for some reason we'd play PS1 games. This and WWF Attitude. Because we had that on the PS1 for many years too.
And to bring up Driver 2 there before we
yes.
move on. So yeah, this is look, call it what it is, GTA clone, but it was a whole lot of fun. It introduced, and I think it did it before GTA. Oh, so I don't know why I'm calling it GTA clone, because it came out before GTA did the whole get out of your car and run around in like a 3D environment. Because you can do it in the GTA, as we've seen in the Retro Replay couple episodes, but to do it in a 3D environment was pretty cool. You play as Tanner, the driver. I actually want to get this as a playthrough up in the channel, so that's going to be a personal goal of mine, to play through that game again. And Scariest Police Chasers, for that matter.
Crash Team Racing. Never was a Crash fan, so I can't say I know much about this one. And then we have some oddities here in the collection that
Not official.
not official. I'm not even sure how these exist, to be honest.
Don't want to put it in the console.
WCW Thunder. Have you
No.
actually tried putting it in a console?
No.
Because I wonder if they'd boot.
Might be something to check out.
Because
So,
burning discs is a thing people do. I know with the Dreamcast it's very popular.
and those were CDs at the time, so
Although that one looks a bit sus.
yeah, not going to put that one in.
Episode 1. And a game I mentioned before on 64 that I played a lot of, Hot Wheels Turbo Racing.
So you may be looking at this thinking, oh, what's wrong with that? But these are actually like printed covers.
Yeah, I don't know if you can really see it, but this is like
Yeah,
photocopied.
that's probably a better. The spine is probably a good indication of being upside down for one. But yeah, that's a good indication that they're not actual official. Actually, what does it? Yeah,
And
so the-
besides, there's that's actually the North American age rating system on the front there.
the ESRB. We
Which
have the.
We don't use. We use that.
Yeah, it is. We're in
Or
Australia,
used. We
and
don't-
it'll have NTSC on the front too. For over in the States.
Actually, speaking of NTSC, I didn't grab them because they're NTSC, but these two N64 games up here, we've got World's Not Enough and Pokemon Stadium 2. They're just games I ended up with, probably accidentally now looking back. That I was like, oh well, I can't even play them because they're in TSC. But actively looking to get rid of them, I guess. So if you're watching and you've got an NTSC console and you want to grab those off us, feel free to ask.
Let us know. We do have an eBay store, but if you want them, just let us know and make an offer. Not going to ask for too much. So yeah, that's the PS1.
Now this is where, well, we'll touch base on it because it's here. But I know we'll get into much greater detail when we get to the other studio tour. I'll give you these ones back.
Yeah, we'll put the bootlegs.
These should go with the actual PS1 games.
We'll put the bootlegs down the bottom.
Although maybe
I think one was there.
there's one.
Placeholder.
Yeah. Maybe
That one has the
twice.
most complete cover.
We'll have to
Okay,
pick up something. I'm just going to unhook it so we can show it
moving
off.
on. So what we might actually do, we'll just touch base on the Dreamcast because we're going to get into detail in the second video in a couple of weeks.
Chronologically, it is the next console in the lineup. But yeah,
We'll just show it, I think.
I actually have two Dreamcast units. This is my second kind of spare one. And I've got Sonic Adventure here. That's the only game that's here currently for it. But yes, all I'll say about the Dreamcast right now is I've sort of not been into a retro console where I just delved into everything about it, the games, all the history of it, and just started collecting things for it. Not since the 64. Like, when it comes to retro consoles, I think the Dreamcast might be number 2 right now. N64 and Dreamcast, but more on that at another time. So just have a look at it for now.
Yeah. The PlayStation turned on. Apology, we are live. Like I said, we'll actually, is that coming through? That may have came through your channels. Everybody, do apologise.
In X mode.
Try to plug it back in now.
Get that off. All right, do apologise. So what we'll do is we're going to feature the Dreamcast a bit more in detail when we get to the other studio. We might actually, so in your studio, you've got the Dreamcast.
Quick look at a controller too, since there's one here.
There it is. On the screen, which is detachable and goes in there.
VMU memory card.
But more on that in the next video in this when we get to the other one.
I think that then takes us to maybe the PS2.
And I'm thinking you've got a PS2 in your...
I do have one we can show off. It's my original one.
Yeah, I think...
back that I would have been talking about before. Yeah, it's the same one.
Yeah, so I think we'll save that one for that video because that is the original console. We want to show that off. But we'll just, I don't know, it's all hooked up at the moment, so we can't really see it. But
I'll pull that off. You can see it here.
There it is.
It's the slim model.
The slim model, that's what we use here.
And that's used to have one back in the day.
So I did have a slim. I had the big bulky one, and then I got the slim. For me, that console is all about the SmackDown games. I don't know how many hours I spent playing SmackDown, and when I say SmackDown games, I mean from Just Bring It, actually SmackDown, WWF SmackDown PS1, all the way up to my last SmackDown vs. Raw game on that console was 7. And then I, at the time I got SmackDown vs. 2007 on the PS2, the 360, that's when I got the 360 in that as well, and then made the big HD upgrade onto 2007, which I still have all my save all my save files on the Xbox console, which is over the top there. I have the original hard drive with all the save files from SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. Don't know if we're going to show them off. There's some interesting content. Sensitive
information on
content.
here.
Nothing bad, so to speak, or anything like that. It's just
Maybe embarrassing is the right word for this.
It's a product of the era. I'll use that term, and we're gonna leave that for you guys to ponder. Moving on
So
to
there's-
the
Well, we might quickly. So you can see
actually yeah,
we've got a not as much as maybe the Xbox shelf behind me. But we've got a lot of PS2 games here. It's sort of a mix. Some of these are mine, some of these are Nexus's, but yeah. So these 4 shelves here are all the PS2 games plus a few here.
I think
just
it would
looking
have
at-
probably the same amount as the original Xbox actually.
I'm just looking at some of the standout ones here. This is one that I'm very fond of. Some of these are actually ones from ours back in the day. Like this is one I got. I want to say early 2010s. Actually, one random memory. So it was actually because it's 2012. I think was when Cyclone Yasi hit this area.
Yeah, that
Hit
was
North Queensland.
R11. Yep.
So, and I remember playing this at my house a few hours before we had to go prepare for that. So that's just a random memory with that game that I was playing it before Cyclone Yasi of all things. But yeah, are there any games that we've got here that you'd like to?
Yeah, actually,
grab up?
there's a little game. Yeah, there you go, Kingdom Hearts. So, for me, I have this odd memory. Oh, hang on, let me get this one up here. I have this odd memory of Kingdom Hearts where, when I first had this game, and there's a reason that's in my. I don't know why I got to this situation, but I didn't have a memory card. And I remember having the big, bulky PS2. I'd rent Kingdom Hearts from Video Easy, just down the road from where I lived. And because I didn't have a memory card, I couldn't save the game. So what did I do? I left the console on the entire time I rented it. And that's just a random memory I have. Like, I had it on, I'd turn the TV off, go to sleep overnight, wake up the next day, turn the TV on, there's the game paused. Because there's no auto shutdown at the time on these consoles. Maybe there was, but definitely wasn't set on by default. Actually, I don't think there was.
No, some consoles had sort of like a power save mode. I know if you leave the Dreamcast running for a long time, it'll auto darken the screen after a while.
Yeah, it'll darken it, but it won't
Won't
turn off. And the Slim does too, because I've left this Slim on a few times here in the studio, and I've just walked past it and saw the light was on and think, oh, when was that turned on? But the good thing, they didn't really overheat or anything like that, so it's good. But yeah, that's the memory I had. I just had it on overnight, just playing as far as I can get into the game, all for nothing, because when you have to return the game, you turn the console off. So yeah, that's just a strange memory. There's a game in there called The Getaway. I think it's in the Platinum area. Think of this as the British GTA. Not a game that comes up in conversation, I'll say.
Look at all those reasons it has an age rating. That's a thick box.
It's a thick box. It's you play as a cop in London. He's trying to investigate the kidnapping of your son and all that sort of stuff. Excuse me. Just have a drink of bubbly water. It's finished. So yeah, I remember playing that game. I've revisited it again recently, and yeah, it's a product of the era.
I actually think my dad used to play this.
Yeah, it's
I remember this game.
it's got good visual, good graphics at the for its time. It introduced the system of no HUD. I don't know what it didn't introduce, but it had a system of no HUD. So everything that you needed to know about your character, about your direction, has to go visual cues off the screen. So, for example, if you need to get from somewhere in the city and you're driving, the blinkers, you follow your blinkers. So if you need, it tells you where to turn. And when you reach the destination, your hazard lights will go on. So both blinkers will go on, indicators, if you will. Visual aids, if you get shot, he's holding where he's hurt. You go up against the wall to lean against the wall, and that's how you heal. So yeah, that's that game.
Just grab a couple that I think we should show off.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what else is on that cupboard, PS2 wise. But yeah, definitely for me, the PS2. When I think of the PS2, it's SmackDown all over.
Yeah, I just grabbed a few here.
All right, what do we got?
So this is early days of my gaming. I loved Hot Wheels, and this was like the best Hot Wheels game at that time. It probably still is one of the best, like, to this day. This came out in 2003, so I must have been about 5 or 6 playing this game, but even now, like, I long to play it now. I've really wanted to revisit this game. This copy I bought's really weird. You can get up to the title screen, but it will pause and not load past the title screen. I don't know what's going on there. Hyper Street Fighter 2 is a game that so it's around that time. So like I'm talking 2011 or so, is that I really got into fighting games. Like I'd play games like I think Super Street Fighter 4 on my 3DS was the first one that I played that sort of got me into fighting games, and from there on it was like Dead or Alive Dimensions. I ended up getting this. I got Capcom vs SNK 2. I got Street Fighter Alpha Anthology. These are just like the ultimate kind of collections for fighting games. It's one of the reasons why PS2 is just such a beloved system, because it's got all these games like this where they're just all classics that are just bundled together nicely. Here's my original copy of Disney Extreme Skate Adventure, which we
featured
played
on the channel. Yep.
He is
The most random of things too, like Disney and skating.
Yeah, who thought, let's take Disney characters and let's license out the Tony Hawk engine. Like, that's literally a selling point of it. Where is it? It's written on here somewhere. Yeah, on the back here. Uses the power of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 game engine. So it was literally a selling point that they borrowed the freaking system itself. But here's some of the SmackDown games.
Here comes the pain. That's up there for me.
We've got the other SmackDown vs Raws here too. Like here's 06.
And that's another title that's my original case game. There, not the case. I swapped it out for a bit more of a new one. But you can see if you bring up 2006 again, in the bottom there it has that little Royal Rumble sticker. So that's actually there was a little leaflet that came with it and said included in this is the Royal Rumble 2005. But I actually cut that leaflet up and cut the Rumble picture out and stuck it there. So that's in case you wanted to know, the Royal Rumble came with it. And funny, the Royal Rumble ended with those two superstars on the front that year. Hit and Run, or decided that we're going to run a playthrough of that starting next week.
And maybe we'll do the PS2 since that's the one that we had back then. That's the version I played definitely. That looks So that's the PS2. Now the next console in the lineup would it'd be that fella down there that I'm pointing at.
That is the original Xbox.
Which of course I never owned, but
Yep.
I'll let you take this one away while I put his away.
Yeah, I had the Xbox and that was the console, so it's all very muddy for me. Like, I don't know where in my timeline where the consoles sit, but all I remember is having the original big black Xbox box. And for me, when I think of that, I think of two games. I'm going to grab them. I'm just grabbing a bunch of titles here, guys.
There'll be a few.
yeah, we're grabbing more than I intended. Okay. I could make this a whole video in itself, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet. There are some titles that I have, so let's have a look. I want to show you a game that I've got in my possession that, looking at the cupboard, is probably the earliest game that I remember having. It may even be a game that I got when I got the console. And that is... Wait for it, guys. Crime Scene Investigation, CSI. I mean, what? Look at this. There you go. It's the book's there, and look, it's in really good condition. The book still, and the disc itself. Although I see I must have had a little ordering system back in the day, because a little 60 number there. So I don't know. Like I don't. I don't remember any other games as early as me owning CSI. Random game. I did like the show at the time, so I guess that's probably a selling point for me. But yeah, it's just random, just a random thing to have in the collection, and we do have a lot of random games here. But
yeah, there's a few in the PlayStation lineup that we chose to omit from bringing up because it's really not kind of worth it.
And that's the thing, like the difference between those ones and this one is that I purposely had bought this one, and it's not any something.
Prime example.
Yeah, where's that shovel? We need to get a little shovel graphic on the screen, I think. Okay, moving on. I'll get through this as quick as I can. Memories. So as a rugby league fan, I do remember playing a lot of this game here, Rugby League 2 for the original Xbox. I was on the PlayStation 2 as well. I had the first game, Rugby League 1. But yeah, I remember playing this a lot. I remember also owning this on PC, which is another... Count that as a platform that I didn't mention, PC. Had this on PC, modding it, updating all the uniforms and whatever. I don't know if you remember, but I did mod a stadium to resemble Wario Stadium back in the day.
Absolutely.
Which is a thing. I've got good fond memories of multiplayer playing this game, Conflict Desert Storm 2. You play a squad of 4, which means 4-player split screen. And this is a game that I've been saying, but I think we should definitely try this out. Another game which... I don't know if it's... No, this wasn't on my top 10 list. It's... No. It misses out on my top 10 list, but... A lot of fun. Mercenaries Playground of Destruction. That's right, I did an honourable mention of that, so yeah, open it up as well.
Just go drop this.
Show you guys that. Next game, I'll save these two for last because the next game is... This is a game that I played a lot, and I think it may have got me into that simulation type park simulation type games, which is Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. This is a game that I recently... Oh, this is one I got in Melbourne. I got this in Melbourne at Trippy Trades. And I did an episode of this game when I did get it. But yeah, I did have this back in the day and I played it. But the two games that come to mind are these two games right here. Sadia KOTOR. One of the best Star Wars games ever made. One of probably my favourites. Well, it is my favourite Star Wars game ever made. Revisit it at least once a year. Recently did a playthrough of it again, this time for the channel. I did the Switch version, so you find that on the channel. A game that you need to check out, Zion.
It's still on the books. I own a copy. a very good condition copy that I was very happy to pick up and just need to play it now.
And this is the title I had. This is my original title, bar the cover. And it's unfortunate, but I don't have the booklet anymore, so I might be able to find a loose one on eBay to go with it.
Yep, that's something people sell a lot.
And the other one is, to be honest, there's 3 games, but I'm going to pick this one, is San Andreas. Don't know how much hours I spent playing and just sandboxing, I just want to call it sandboxing around in this game. Along with Vice City and not so much GTA 3. But yeah, more so Vice City and San Andreas. So that's a bit of a showcase for me.
I've just got 2
you've
here
got
in my
some there,
hands. Burnout 3 Takedown. I think we have it on the PS3 there. PS2, I should say. Maybe not. Yes, we do. But I want to bring up this version in particular because Burnout 3 on the Xbox was the first way I actually played it. And it was a bit of an eye-opening experience when I played it for the first time. I was always a fan of racing games, especially when I was younger. You know, I was talking about Hot Wheels before, and just everything in this game, like the way it drives, all the crashing and the combat, and the music, that's to this day shaped what I listen to and what I still listen to. Yeah, the Xbox version deserved a shout out, and just a random one, but Star Wars Episode 3 was a game I used to play with my cousin every now and then. We just used to play the co-op mode, play the versus mode, and I love doing stuff like how this game had the whole bad ending to it, where if you beat the game as
Oh, sorry, I think
as
the camera
Anakin.
was on me that whole time you were talking. Do you want to show them again?
Yeah, so you just heard me talking about Burnout 3 for the Xbox and Episode 3. And as I was saying about Episode 3 was I liked how it had the whole... you could actually pick Anakin on the Mustafar duel and you could actually win it, and it shows some crazy alternate reality ending where Anakin wins and he kills Emperor Palpatine on the spot and becomes the Supreme Emperor himself. This is just like a what the hell moment.
I just had to go and grab a few more games because
Got a big library.
big library, and now that I'm thinking about it, going through these games, I've got to say the Xbox really cemented my love for gaming with all these great games. So I'd said the 360 at the start of the video, but now I'm starting to think to the Xbox. But anyway, True Crime, Streets of LA. This is an original game that I've had in my possession since it came out, pretty much. GTA clone, but it was fun. I remember being fun at the time. A bit shallow, but yeah. True Crime, Star Wars Republic Commando.
Oh, that's another one that I got some memories with too.
That one there, I don't have the cover, so another one I need to find. And by the way, you're just noticing as well, sometimes the cases get a bit damaged, and I'd like to just swap them out just for an updated case. And they've got black spines, but
I think
very
black-
hard to come across green ones these days.
I think black looks pretty good with the Xbox colorway.
And the black looks cool, so just want to mention that. KOTOR 2. So if KOTOR 1's my favourite Star Wars game of all time, this is a sequel to it, built on the same engine. Tells equally as good a story, so that's there. I'm going to bring up a Bond game that I have memories of. Agent Under Fire, which, looking back, people will say, oh, that's the lesser Bond game. But it's the game that I've had longer than Nightfire and Everything or Nothing, which obviously Nightfire and Everything or Nothing are better games. And the last one is Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb. I played through this recently as last year. LeBron liked to roast me because I do get frustrated at this game, but it's fun. It's a platformer. I think we could better leave the Xbox there because we could run a whole episode
You
on the
see,
Xbox.
you can see behind us how many Xbox games there. They're all goes from here down to here. they're all alphabetically ordered and stuff. You might, if you're keen enough of a collector or just knowledgeable in Xbox games, you might even recognize some of them just by seeing the spine. Like a keen eye might notice the two Raw wrestling games there.
Well, I need to. Alright.
I thought I should mention them.
I just need to mention that. Look, we played this game for some projects on the channel, and it almost broke us.
It broke my trust with it.
WWE Raw 2. Now, I've got to paint the picture for you. So, after I had, it would be, maybe it was before. Maybe I had the PS2 after the Xbox. I think that's how it goes. I'm just trying to think of my own timeline, but obviously owning an Xbox, I didn't have the SmackDown vs. Raw game, any SmackDown games at the time. So we had Raw, as you can see. And at the time, the graphics of this game were amazing. Had all the characters in there. You had custom soundtracks, which you couldn't do on the PlayStation. So you could create a wrestler and then burn the CD. That's the other thing, you can burn CDs on the Xbox. And have their custom entrance. So that was cool. Going back to visit this and, to be quite honest, is a bit rough. But, yeah. Product of the time. Alright, what's next?
We've got a couple games to show, but there'll be plenty more to show at the next tour we do. But I've got some Nintendo GameCube games here. Of course, I think most of these would be mine, because I don't think for a while there you never really, not since your original one was sort of packed away, you hadn't had a Wii for a long time, and even when you did have a Wii, GameCube was never really something that come up.
Well, that's the one thing I forgot to mention in my history of. So I did have the Wii and the Wii U as well, but yeah, you're right. It's probably easy for me to list consoles I didn't have, which is PlayStation 3 until very recently, and the GameCube, which I've never owned a GameCube.
Me neither.
So, Wii games, though I did have a very, very small couple of GameCube games, which I'm thinking of now. So one being Star Fox Adventures.
Yep.
I do remember owning that.
This one here that you gave me years ago.
WrestleMania 18.
That would have been, like late 2000s when you picked those up and when you gave this one to me.
And I mean, like, it's probably the most least represented console in my collection.
I did start collecting a fair few games. We'll see when we get there.
There is a game down there, though, that was the first GameCube game that I've bought in years and years.
Oh, yeah.
Which is... This one is Star Wars Rogue Leader Rogue Squadron 2. I don't know where I got that. Did I just buy it on eBay or did I find it somewhere? But I don't know. It was the first game I've had in a long time. And I would actually go as far to say, like, I remember, like I said, I owned Star Fox and I owned all those games back in the day. But this is the first game I actually remember going out and buying, so it is what it is. So you've got a few titles there.
I've just got... I think we brought them around for some other projects that we may have been mentioning before. But
Yeah,
I'll
these
run
guys
through
are
them
gonna be
quickly.
coming up.
So I think out of all these, for some reason, WrestleMania 18 is one I've played the most. This game is literally like the beta or like the demo for these ones. So there's WrestleMania 19, there's Day of Reckoning 1 and 2, which I'm trying to... There. So these are all the GameCube wrestling games. I think they're a little underrated because a lot of people tend to just kind of talk about the SmackDown games coming out around that same time, because this is from a span of about 2002 to 2000 and when did this one come out? 2005. So SmackDown, they kind of had the wrestling series on lock by that point in time. So not as many people really talked about or played these ones, but if you take the time to try them out, they're really I think they're up there. They're not quite on the level, but the fact that the gameplay on them is unique compared to that, like they play a lot more similarly to the N64 games, and some people say they wish that Aki would have continued making wrestling games. I think these carried the torch very, very well.
And it's just a testament to THQ and to WWE that they actually cared about their Nintendo audience as well. Because the PlayStation
exclusives,
SmackDown and SmackDown vs. Raw were PlayStation exclusive right up to 7. So during this period, you had, and that's here we go. You had SmackDown on holding the fort on PlayStation, which, to be completely honest, would be the majority because that's everybody knows how the PlayStation 2 sold.
Kind of makes sense. It was the blue brand, and PlayStation's a very blue.
You had
company.
You had the WrestleMania Day of Reckoning series holding the fort over on Nintendo, and of course you had Raw and Raw 2 holding the fort over on Xbox. We don't talk about WrestleMania 21.
Big match, Johnny. And there's one more game here that I'll show off quickly. I've already talked about it earlier. Earlier tonight I talked about it, but yeah, this is my copy of Melee that I would have picked up probably sometime around 2010. I'm thinking 2009, 2010, because I played Brawl. I'll just quickly talk about this. So I played 64 on emulator for the first time. Got hooked on that. I think 64 was the first Smash I played, because then Brawl would have come out shortly after, and we all played that ton when it come out. I eventually got Brawl and played that for a year or two before. I was just like, I kept seeing in Brawl, they'd mention it in trophies and all that kind of stuff, like Smash Brothers Melee. Like, what's Melee about? I want to play Melee. And then I played it. It was, just because it was different, I thought it was like my favorite one back then. And then you fast forward to now that I've played them all, I can still say it's my favorite one, so Melee.
So we're going to get more into the GameCube area, because we don't actually have a GameCube console to refer to.
No,
amongst the two of us.
We've always played them on Wii's.
But
because it's just
handy. Everyone's got a Wii.
Yeah.
So we'll dig deeper into the GameCube in the next video of this little series. All right. Next up, we touched on it a bit before. Oh yeah, there's the controller. Before we move on,
we've got a few of those. What's this one? This is.
And the thing too, that also got to mention that this controller is still in use today for competition.
Yep, this is the this is actually a Smash 4 GameCube controller. So all the ones that we own that are legit GameCube controllers were Super Smash Brothers ones. I've got one that I picked up Smash Wii U era that I'll show off. It's back at the other studio. It's got some wear and tear on it, I'll say that. More on that later.
Yeah. All right. Next up is we're going to go over to a handheld console. Jump into this one right at the moment. So the handheld console that I refer to was, when you think of handheld gaming, you're probably thinking Nintendo, DS, Game Boy. By the way, I owned a Game Boy as well. I don't know why I'm just thinking about it now. I owned a Game Boy. I remember Pokemon. I had Pokemon.
Was it
Red?
Or was it gold or
Actually,
silver?
it might be gold.
Because it was like a blue, aqua sort of coloured console, wasn't it?
I do remember that. I'm on a Game Boy now. But yeah, I had a Game Boy. And then the Game Boy Color. So there's that. And I remember playing Yellow on Game Boy Color. But moving forward, so you've kind of been the one to have the Nintendo handhelds.
Yep.
So we're going to just hold that for the next video.
Yes, so there's plenty to show off in that area.
But there is one handheld that we are going to show off right now that I had. And that is...
We showed it briefly before, but let's
bring it up and let's go back into it. There's the PSP console. That's the PSP 1000, I believe, is the technical term for it. So yeah, you put the UMD discs in there. You want to just pop that disc out to show us. So that's what the discs look like. They're just in little cases, which very scratch resistant.
Yeah, it's literally like in a shell.
It's in a shell. So unless they get in that little groove there, which is very rare to do, like it's all protected. So most games you find in really good condition for that reason. What's the size comparison between that and a GameCube disc, I wonder?
GameCube's a little bigger, just off memory. Let's get one out.
And look, that's the thing, as we're talking, we're having just having this little discussion. We're able to compare all these older titles, and like we just did that controller comparison just before.
So here's a GameCube disc next to a UMD.
There you go. So even smaller. And just saying that the amount of content that they push the GameCube disc to the limit.
Yep.
Like I look at Rogue Squadron. Like I haven't played it yet, but I've seen gameplay footage and all that, and that is a really, really beautiful looking game.
There's
Squadron.
some really visually impressive stuff. I think it all comes down to kind of developer. Like, if you're talking about the fourth generation, no, what is it? Sixth gen. I honestly don't know what the first generation is when it comes to gaming consoles. Like, where does it start? But that generation, so GameCube, PS2, Xbox, Dreamcast. The Dreamcast was the weakest out of all of them, but you'd be surprised at how many like really nice looking games it has. And yeah, the GameCube it was a powerful console, but because the discs were so tiny, you couldn't hold a lot of storage on them. And but yeah, you look at some GameCube games, they're just really like they hold up well.
Yeah.
Wind Waker.
Wind
for
Waker.
starters.
There you go. That's one. But yeah, the PSP, Sony's handheld console. There's been a couple of versions of this. So I got the PSP original, the one for the Go, which I brought the case out. But I do have that Go console here. Actually, I might go grab it just to do it. Yeah, I'm gonna go grab that other console. But yeah, just
Here we go.
we'll have a look at the menu there while I'll duck out.
It's got the PS3 sort of aesthetic. Oh, here we go. We can look at some of the games. This is very hard to do whilst looking backwards, but SmackDown vs. Raw, Star Wars Battlefront, Renegade Squadron, SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. So yeah, we've only had this one for a little while, but I have the memory stick. This looks just like PlayStation 3 UI. That's crazy to think about. PlayStation Network. Yeah, I haven't got too much experience with them personally. I knew people that did have one. Nexus is one of them. I had a cousin who had one too, who had some of the games like the GTA games on the PSP. He had a SmackDown vs. Raw game too. I remember playing a few times. But yeah. Information board. They got some nice speakers on them.
Yeah, that's the one thing, is that the gives off good sound, good speakers on those consoles. Alright, so you've got that's the PSP right there. I've got the PSP Go here now. So that's this console right here. Look how small this one is. Like, it's the size of a Nintendo 64 cartridge, everybody.
And just think about the difference in storage that is capable between the two of them.
So this one doesn't have a disk drive, so it's all download. So think of it as like you got the PS5 and then the diskless, the digital version. So that's that. So you have to heavily rely on Wi-Fi for this. This one doesn't work. So thank you, Lily, for that dud sale. Looking back at some of the games that I remember from the PSP,
We've got some.
we do have some titles. So, as a matter of fact, actually, all these titles that we've got in the studio are quite recent purchases. There's a little op shop near us that always seems to house these games, and I just grab them every time I see them.
Metal Gear Solid and Monster Hunter.
So those never played those games ever. The game
Familiar with these ones though.
Killzone.
I mentioned it while you were grabbing that other stuff that my cousin actually had. I don't remember which one in particular. It might have been Vice City Stories, but he actually had. He might have had both, honestly. But I actually played these like once or twice on his PSP. Just driving around and running around, the stuff you'd do when you'd play GTA games like back in the day. God of War.
It's God of War. But yeah, that's the stories, GTA Stories games is what I remember. I did have a SmackDown vs. Raw. I don't know which one it was, but... And yeah, so like I said, by the way, these are not the original games that I had back in the day. These are just ones that we've managed to find and purchase along the way. Just to build up a pretty impressive PSP collection in the matter of months, really.
We've got two of these. Imagine, how many copies of SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 we must have spread across consoles.
Yeah, well, actually, though, one of those is actually housing 2007, so that's interesting.
Warriors.
The Warriors, that's the latest one I edited.
Some of these, I got these off a friend who was just looking to discard them any way he could. Tekken. So I actually had these for about a year or so.
There, Renegade Squadron is a game that also I would have memories of as well. And there's another PSP game. It's called Star Wars Lethal Alliance, which I want to get my hands on.
Oh, Lethal Alliance. That's
We could play as the Twi'lek.
I think I've got that on the DS.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, it came out on that as well.
I found that at an EB Games when they still had DS games in their whatchamacallit thingy section.
There's
Pre-owned.
Pre-owned.
Which unfortunately they don't anymore. DS and 3DS, and I think officially left the system, sadly.
So yeah, that's the PSP. The thing I can't connect. I want to try and download some titles onto the PSP because I got a memory stick on there, but it's so old that my Wi-Fi system is not compatible with the console, so I can't connect to the internet, and I can't connect it through my phone's hotspot either. So that's how old that console is. The Wi-Fi has moved with the times. I'm holding up hope that I might come across a Wi-Fi somewhere that it can connect to, so I can just at least try to update it and have a look in the store. But I'm happy with where it is at the moment.
You could say the same thing about the Dreamcast. I don't think we'll be getting a telephone wire hooked into this anytime soon.
No, definitely not. That's the PSP. Now moving forward to Xbox 360.
That would come next year.
Would come
PS3,
next.
Xbox 360. We brushed on the Wii. I think the Wii actually launched
And the Wii.
a year after it or so. But
So
yeah, let's get into one of those.
we'll get into the 360. Just also mindful that we do have to have a second part coming. So we'll leave the Wii and the Wii U for part 2 because I did have them both.
We do have some games here in the studio, although they're just.
There's a shovel here somewhere.
I can smell the dirt from the shovel. There's some good games in this bundle here, but for the most part, you can, if you want to see what Wii games we have, it was an episode of Retro, wasn't it, that we went through them all?
So I actually bought
Link's
the bulk of this.
It's the Link's Crossbow training episode
Yeah,
if
that's
you
the one.
want to go back and find that.
Yeah, I bought a bulk of these from somebody on Facebook Marketplace who was just selling them for like $30 for a big bag.
So there's no sentimental value at all in any of these games.
No, she was just getting rid of it, and that's how it ended up in the position. So, moving forward to the Xbox 360. So this is the console that I have a lot of memories with.
This way. Let's get these out of the way.
There, down the bottom here.
These have been in the shot the entire time. Just forget those exist.
There we go. So that section down there is my
From
360
about
collection.
here on. Yeah, these ones.
Also backwards compatible with most of the games up top as well. But for me, Xbox 360 is where the bulk of my memories as as a gamer, I'd class myself as a gamer during this era. Like I played games on the era before it, but if I want to go ahead and just label myself as a gamer, this is the console that cemented that. So, one of the reasons also is this game, Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I don't know. Well, I probably will know if I open up the save file. So, also, like I mentioned before, my original hard drive is in that Xbox up there. So that's not my original Xbox 360. My original Xbox 360, which I still had, is just unfortunately it rusted away a bit and became unusable. But thank goodness that I was able to save the hard drive and transfer it over into this console, which is the Star Wars Connect edition of the console, which I picked up. We actually went to up to the city and picked this up at a op shop.
Yeah, I think that's really an underappreciated feature, that you can save an entire console's history just on the hard drive, to the point where it's very easy just to shift it from one to the other to preserve stuff.
Yeah, and all you do is just open the cover, pull it. It's not any screwing. It's not. It's designed to be taken out. So, it's a 250 hard drive, and I swapped it out for this console, which had 320 gigabytes. So, I don't care. I just want all those memories of that console. So all of my save files of Oblivion, of looking around.
Would you have played that, perhaps?
GTA 4, yes, definitely, and the episodes. Oh, I remember playing that. I remember when the Lost and Damned came out, and I remember when the Ballad of Gay Tony came out. Spent a lot of time with Nico in Liberty City. Let's have a look what else we've got there. Oh yeah, there we go. I made the switch to HD with SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, and as you can see, each year, I have all the created wrestlers that I made, all of the settings, all of the everything is still in these games, so I'm absolutely thrilled about that. It goes right up. So if we talk about upgrading or moving on to things, like I find it cool that I played the SmackDown games and upgraded to the 360 with 07, played that right up to 2K15, and then that's when the Xbox One came out, so then I upgraded to that. So that's how cross-generational the WWE games were and still are. So
it seems, yeah, from that point on, because you mentioned that Xbox seemed to be kind of your thing, starting at least with the original Xbox, that once SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 came to Xbox, it was right or die with Xbox.
Right or die with Xbox at the time, because there was Xbox 360 and the PS3, so for a long time, and for all intents and purposes, I've never owned a PS3 during this period, no any period, until very recently that I picked a PS3 up. Actually, there's a story to that. We'll get to that shortly. Let's just stick with the 360 now very quickly. Some other games. I'll grab this out. I don't know what that is. The Force Unleashed. I did a playthrough of this, and it's just as fun as I remembered playing it on this console. There's a playthrough on the channel, and I do intend to do number 2.
I don't know what it is about the spine on that game, but it looks like an original Xbox game or something. Just the way it's stylized, something just the yellow, like it looks like Lego Star Wars or something.
Actually, that's the thing. Now that you mentioned that, some of the Star Wars game had yellow spines. That did. Battlefront 2 did. Don't actually have Battlefront 2
Yeah,
here.
and you look at the rest of the 360 games, a lot of them, we're starting to get sort of a generalized white kind of look to some of them. Well, obviously the original Xbox had plenty of that, but I don't know, something about that one in particular has just got me thinking that.
What are the games there that I've got? Oh, there's a game that I'm going to bring this game randomly out.
Shout out to MK9. So I actually did have a 360 for a little while there. It wasn't mine, but it's one that we had and we played. And obviously, like I said, I was very much into fighting games around this point, and Mortal Kombat 9 was a massive one. Lots of especially some of the people you see on this channel, like Tsunami and TJ, will tell you that this was like the game for a while there that we played. It was like this game basically saved Mortal Kombat as a franchise, because it's still going strong up to Mortal Kombat 11 nowadays, and it was just like an amazing game. I've actually got some 360 games too that we can show at the other studio, but we'll get to those when we do.
Alright, just quick fire now. Got a few games here. Call of Duty World at War. Probably my favourite. Call of Duty 3 was my favourite COD game. That was on the original Xbox. Actually, that's something I want to get and add to my collection. Is COD 3 World at War. You found something there?
I sure have. I'm sure this is the one we used to play back in the day. 2K6. So this is long before everybody had hopped on the 2K bandwagon.
2K6.
Because NBA Live 2005, which is the year before, was still the NBA game to be playing around this time.
That had market.
But 2K6, we just had it for some reason.
we
created our own teams and stuff, and
I'm thinking maybe we'll do this offline after the stream. Oh, hang on, what's happening here? If we're still on the air, guys. This is interesting. Let's just get some other screens up.
here it comes. From 2010. Someone bought this for $10.
I think we can still hear us. We're just trying to fix the screen up.
Okay.
Alright, don't know what happened there. There is a storm around, so maybe some lightning got into it.
Maybe it's a glitch
Into the airwaves.
a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah, I'm thinking we throw that in the Xbox after this and see what's on there. Because,
right.
like I said, original hard drive in there.
I'm gonna keep this off the shelf and put it.
Actually, before we go ahead and press the Xbox, by the way. Well, I know I've shown it before, but listen to this, guys.
And
I think that's the most awesome feature for a console.
that's my first time turning it on.
Okay, moving on.
We'll just let it run, let it warm up.
A few titles from through. So this is a game. This is underrated, and people are going to look at me thinking, "What, really?" But this Lost, the video game, has an original story, which is like a spiritual Lost. So got to backtrack here. I did watch the TV show in its entirety, in its run, Lost. I was a fan of the show. Some of the earlier seasons I was. It sort of got a bit haywire towards the end of the run. No offense to all the big Lost fans, but yeah, I do remember playing this game through, and it's got a really good original story, which is in the to borrow Ragnarok's line, good storyline, which I actually want to jump back in and play again. That's Lost. 2 games here, so as recent as 3 weeks ago is when I purchased my latest Xbox 360 game, and that game is Batman Arkham Origins. Huge fan of the Arkham series. This is the only Arkham game that I haven't played, so that's why I bought it. And as a matter of fact, it's a game that's set during Christmas, which is another reason why I bought it. Just to add to my Christmas playlist every time that comes around, because there aren't too many games that come up that are Christmas themed. I mean, we did the big Nights Before Christmas games on Christmas Day, but we just want to add to that as well. So that's why I bought that game. And you and TJ played this game on Retro a while ago to tie in with the big release of Avatar: Way of the Water, which, by the way, fourth highest grossing movie of all time so far, pushing up third. I'm going to do a video of that on Royal Pop. It was Avatar, the game. Follows the original story. Now, you and TJ had a reserved thoughts around this game, playing
We
it.
gave it a good go. Honestly, like, because I haven't actually seen Way of the Water yet. I just haven't really had a chance to get out to the cinemas. I might have to do something that is not really done common nowadays, is wait for the DVD and watch it that way or something. Or it's probably on a streaming service too, but
Oh yeah, Disney Plus will definitely pick that up.
we still appreciate physical media here because we're surrounded by it.
Actually, in my living room has a bunch of Blu-rays, so and this is well completely off topic, but 4K Blu-rays is my latest thing. But anyway,
But yeah, I honestly feel like, let's say I go back and watch Avatar 1, and then maybe I watch that, then I watch Way of the Water. I feel like that could honestly get me in good enough of a mood to sort of sink myself into that Avatar game, because it's a well put together game. There's just so much stuff like that explains like the lore of the Avatar universe and all this really interesting stuff, but interesting to Avatar fans. So, and I feel like, yeah, maybe if I get into the right Avatar mood, that I would want to play
and I
it.
definitely felt that being an Avatar fan, I enjoyed it a lot more when you guys are playing it, when you guys are in. But that's just like I said, Avatar fan. And I'm sure there's many more. Well, there's there's over 2 point something billion reasons why there's a lot of Avatar fans out there, which is why we ran the video. So. And the cool thing with that one, and there's some other games in there as well that you can run it in 3D. We've got a 3D TV here in this studio right now.
I think you've got it installed on the Xbox. Sonic Generations was one that we've actually tried
That
out.
one, so that one there, and there's one more. Actually, it might be one of the other PS3 titles. Anyway, 3D games. All right.
Actually, speaking of physical media, I mean,
Yeah, VHSs, and I just pulled up this before the Independence Day DVD that I got for a future episode of Retro Rewind, our movies counterpart to this show over on Port Royal Pop, hosted by myself. Okay, I think we spent enough time on 360.
we do have some PS3 games here, but not really any retro memories of it, because neither of us had
Yeah,
one.
so just going to touch on this briefly. Like I've said in the past, actually that other console's underneath if you want to grab it.
Plus, if you do want to see what games we have, there was an upload of you going through them.
Yeah.
Picked up another console.
So a couple of weeks ago, first let's go back. Never owned a PS3 console. There's the one that and the GameCube that I didn't get because I was so invested in this 360 that I was Team Xbox. And at the time, there was no like draw card for me to go out and buy a PS3. I had a 360 at the time. I was in my, I think I was a teenager at the time. So definitely, I couldn't afford to just go out and buy a PS3. And I had the 360. That did me good. Like, that's it did the job. That is until recently. A couple of weeks, actually, end of last year. You want to explain where this came from?
Yes, so here is. I don't know what model this is,
Slim.
because I don't know my PS3 is this
Slim.
slim. This is the one that opens its disc drive like this, and the disc sits on here like that, which is pretty cool looking, but weird. I think I don't know how well exactly this is gonna hold up after a long time. Also, I'm not really sure how it holds up against dust. Just being an open cover like that. But I suppose I don't really have much history with it. This belonged to my cousin, who it was his one that he got many years ago when it came out, and it's just he sort of just had it collected in dust. It works. It boots up. And it's actually got some games installed on it. Ones that I remember I used to play over at his house were it was the Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection, which has had 1, 2, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on it. But other than that, I never really played anything else on PS3s. And eventually, because I think we what was the issue with this one? We couldn't.
So this is where people in the comments may be able to help us out here, because what happened is we got this console. It's got all the games and all that all saved on there, a bunch of games and some other things on there. So because it's now in our possession, we decided to we didn't factory reset it. We just deleted all the profiles and made our own profiles on there, and everything else is still the same. We connected it to the internet via Ethernet cable, and it decided to update the system. Now this console's been sitting there for about a year, maybe more, maybe less, but it's been sitting there, not in use. We updated the system, which needed a system update because it's been sitting there, and then that's where the error showed up during the update. So there's an error that stops it from updating. After looking, there's people saying it's the hard drive, people saying it's the memory, the RAM. Don't know, a lot of conflicting things.
Plethora of possible things that I don't think we're quite equipped or committed enough to investigate.
Because the fixes that they put out there, so if it's the hard drive, they said, oh, just take the hard drive out, give it a wipe over, put it back in. Hard drive is easy to get out because it's just right under the console, a little screw, which unfortunately I did have to tear the, what do you call it, off? Actually, no, yeah, it's on the side. Actually, I don't know where it is. The hard drive is there somewhere. Pulled that out, gave it a wipe, put it back in, didn't work. The next fix was saying, oh, it's the RAM needs to be wiped a bit. So I began to undo this console, and I had to rip off the warranty void sticker, which, yeah, had to
I think it's out of warranty anyway.
Would have been way past warranty. Did that, and then I got into it, and I'm thinking, no, I don't even know what I'm doing. So I screwed it back together and just decided to just leave it there. And then a couple of weeks later, went up to the city in hopes of buying the PS3, which in fact, actually, I think that's the week that the Xbox 360 was bought, the Star Wars one.
So it came back with a different console, same generation.
And then I was just on, actually I was alerted, somebody showed me that someone local in the area, in the small town, beach town over, was selling a PS3 for $150 with a bunch of games. I said, yes, sure, go get it. This lady was upgrading to a PS4, I believe, over Christmas for her kids. Yeah, upgrading.
Not the PS5.
Not the PS5, but you know, it was a family.
It could be a different financial situation.
Yeah, she's and you know the kids. I mean, I think at the time too, PS5s would have been hard to get.
Yeah.
And she's got like young kids, so they would have been all asking for that PS4, most likely for Fortnite, which runs okay on the PS4. Got the console off that, and then I did a video on Retro Replay 1UP, which you can go over and check out, of all the games going through. So I won't go into them, because one, I don't have much memories of playing a PS3. Actually, I don't have memories at all, because I haven't played it. And two, the games that I've got there, I mean, I've got GTA 4, which is probably the standout game over there, which I've played on the Xbox 360 anyways. With the exception of this, so I guess like my number one game of all time is actually a PS3 game, but I actually played the remastered edition on the PS4, and definitely intending to play the PS5 remake. That's The Last of Us. So funny that, how ironic that my number one video game of all time came off a console that I've never even owned. So Funny how things work out like that.
You mentioned that. We're in the same boat because Smash Brothers Melee is a GameCube game.
There you go.
Never owned a
Never
GameCube.
in a GameCube, ran it on the Wii.
Strange
There
coincidence.
you go. So I think the other console that we didn't mention is the Wii U, but we will talk about the Nintendo. We'll talk about the Wii U.
There's one there in the background.
There it is, right next to it. If you can just see it, just leaning up. Well, not leaning. It's holding a cord down. That's why it's leaning.
Actually, I was going to say, yeah, it's got a bit of a slant to it, but it's because there's a
It's
cord
holding
on
the
it.
HDMI up.
It's not going to tip.
So yeah, we might jump into that and the Wii and the Dreamcast. What other consoles have you got there? PlayStation 2. We'll get more into.
We can check out the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Super Nintendo. We'll go into a bit more of the 64 games. Sega Saturn. We'll check out the other model of the PS1. We'll go into more in the Dreamcast. And yeah, so and basically all the games for those.
And I guess just one thing, just going back to what we're talking about, just to end the video off here, is just talk about the artwork of these cases, like spines and that, because he touched on it about, but you can see the difference that the they went with for the different consoles here. So you got the PlayStation 2, which just went straight out black and white, just text on the spine,
White and then
black and white,
black and silver for the
and then the
platinums.
platinums, yeah, black and silver, which I've sorted them together like that. And then you switch over to that, the counterpart being the Xbox, and they went for the, the color, full color artwork spines.
Yeah, a lot of these ones along the top two shelves, I think they all look great because they're all colourful.
And then they had the classics range, which I guess is the platinum answer, and they just had the basic spines there, except for Ricky Ponting for some reason. Ricky Ponting is a cricket game, by the way, if people don't know that. And then you get to the 360, and yeah, a bit more out, keeping that style, and the PlayStation 3 adopted that as well. There are some games that just have the straight, normal text. For some reason, the Simpsons game, which I think would be a game that would have colourful spines, but it doesn't.
PSP's in the same boat. Some of them are just plain white, some of them are special designs like All-Stars.
There you go, the artwork, colourful, just carries over. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the first generation of PSP games, so if you can tell by the... Yeah, you can tell by the... There, and see how Valkyrie Chronicles has a smaller... Although that's got the same thing as well. Well, that just... Yeah, well, that just derailed my train of thought. But anyway... And then you get to the PS3, which also went for the colour, GameCube down the bottom there. The Wii. Oh yeah, the Wii. Oh, we're going to get to the Wii title, but just look at the artwork for the Wii games.
There was one big outlier in that because the entire case was red. New Super Mario Brothers Wii.
And I do like when big games like that come out with their own unique artwork.
You want to take it a step further. You talk about the sort of going back to say Super Nintendo and N64 when certain games come out with different coloured cartridges altogether. Like Donkey Kong 64, some older games. I think one that I haven't got that I would like to get is Doom on the Super Nintendo. I don't know if we got it in the PAL regions, but I know the American cartridge 100% is red. It's a red Super Nintendo cartridge.
And you can see there like Pokemon Stadium and World is Not Enough there.
Yeah, got the gold and the blue.
Zelda's,
yeah, gold shiny ones.
And the PlayStation 2, there are some PlayStation 2 discs that are blue, as opposed to the normal clear colour, I guess. There's some blue. PlayStation 1 discs are black.
Was supposed to be some sort of anti-copyright measure that apparently did not work
at all, as we can see with some of our bootlegs we got in the studio. Yeah, I'm just trying to think as well.
Dreamcast is clear, but only these are a different CD format. They're I don't remember what they're called. They're a different thing.
And the Wii U had its own sort of format as well. I know the Wii U discs are just called the Wii U optical discs, and the Wii discs are called Wii optical discs. 360 and PS3. Actually, no. PS3 were made on Blu-rays because Sony owned Blu-ray at the time. The Xbox 360, which I thought was interesting to note. Oh, that game's not even in there. Where is that game? Yeah, interesting to note that Xbox 360 games are just made on normal DVDs. They're probably an enhanced format of the DVD. But it's interesting to note that obviously Blu-rays are the higher quality disc, and of course games, now generation games are made on Blu-ray disc. But yeah, you had 360 and the PS3 on different disc formats, and you would have thought that the PS3 would have had more, would be able to put more stuff on a Blu-ray disc, but they were pretty much the same across the consoles. I think we've covered. Oh well, look, we'll just finish off because there is just one more other format that we didn't cover, and that is PC. I've owned a few PC games over the time, so I'll just grab what we've got here. So some of the games that I've got in the studio is Flight Simulator 10. Talk about Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds. I've got GTA 3 here. I've got another copy of Star Wars Racer. And Jedi Knight Mistral Sith from Kmart, which is a rare thing because Kmart don't sell, our Kmart doesn't sell video games anymore. Were there any PC titles that you can think of that you have memories of?
Really, I never owned too many. I did used to own a couple. Like I think I had one of the Tiger Woods games on PC that I played a little bit of. It was like 2000 and I want to say 7 or 2009, something like that. I definitely played a few like actual PC games, just not on. Or was it on disc? I had like Plants vs Zombies on PC, and I had like Bejeweled 3 as an actual like disc PC game that we bought from EV Games or something. But other than that, yeah, no, not too many PC games on disc. One though that I wish I still had, but I don't know if I do. So like it's a big thing probably back in like late 90s, early 2000s to create these discs that just have like hundreds and maybe even like 1,000 or so just random like shareware PC games just all bundled together that you'd boot up, and yeah, it's just got all these games you just flick through, and some of them are full games, some are just like trials that you would play that were shareware stuff that you'd have to like contact the developers to buy the full game or whatever. But yeah, I had this purple disc. It was one of those collections, and I used to play the crap out of it. You had like these little putt golf games. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It had like a couple little putt games. I had like a fake Pac-Man.
Yes, that's
Pac-Man
right.
clone game. Yeah, I was
And
like,
they would like there's a lot of them were just like clones of other games and just changed things here and there. I remember the Pac-Man one.
yeah. So like, I wish I still had it, because this is like
Maybe a gold to find.
this is going to probably early 2000s. Although I imagine the disc may have been older, because there wasn't a lot of 3D games on
No.
there. The Pac-Man was an exception.
Yeah. Actually, let me. So for me, I wouldn't call myself a PC gamer, but I do remember playing games throughout the years on the PC format. A very early game that I remember is, I don't know if it's this one.
Oh, you know another game that was on that disc. I'm not sure if you remember. I don't know what it was called. It's called like Bad Smileys or something, but it was a first-person shooter where you're basically all the enemies are like smiley face like emojis, but obviously they weren't called emojis back then. And they'd like laugh at you, and It was really weird. Oh, another one that was on that disc too was a game called Icy Tower. We played as like this guy. It was kind of like the game Doodle Jump, where you jump up, but rather than continuously bouncing, you actually have to platform your way up a tower on platforms. And another one's coming to my mind now. I think it was on that disc. It was basically Space Invaders, but all the enemies were chickens.
Yes.
And it had the like Ric Flair music in the intro. Oh man, I wish I had this disc still. I'm sure I did, because I found it a few years ago and I was like, oh, this is it. I'm gonna put it in a sleeve and make sure I don't lose it. But I think
It
I
lost. The game I was trying to think, I thought I had it here, but I remember playing it when I was little. It's a flight simulator game. I don't know what year it is, and I thought I had it down there somewhere, but can't seem to spot it. But yeah, coming full circle, I did dip my toes into the latest flight simulator. It's cool. It's a very impressive concept. It's a very nice looking game, and if you
the new one is scarily accurate because of the maps and
yeah,
stuff.
that's what I mean.
You can literally look at your own town and see the streets.
That's it. It's that detailed, and it's a flight simulator, so there's not much to it. But if you wanted to go and look at your house or whatever in the game, you can. So
The basketball court at the school in town, I can make out what
the
below
outdoor.
is the basketball court.
yeah, that's how scary accurate, and I don't have it installed because it's such a big game too. Don't have it installed on my console anymore, but it's fun. So for PC, I've got two games here that I firmly believe I've had for a very long time. That's travelled with me since I don't know when. So that's one is The Sims 3. So that's pretty much a PC classic, so to speak. And Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. This game has travelled with me for years and years and years, from the old Game Trader days, from the sticker. Yeah, I would have picked it up with... Actually, I would have picked it up... Probably one other. I would have picked it up with this one, because it's got the same sticker. And I'm guessing maybe one of the Star Wars games, but they don't have the sticker on at the moment. But yeah, that's some of my PC games. With the way the world goes now, there's not a lot of the computer that we use to produce our shows, and that doesn't have a disk drive. So I've got to use this external disk drive if I want to play the games. But of course, obviously, having Steam and having Origin and other platforms like that allowing you to download the game digitally.
Physical like PC CD-ROM games are also very far in between now. I think you can still find maybe like a couple. I know I've seen them in JB Hi-Fi in the last few years, but not recently have I looked for
I
them.
don't actually know if EB Games as well stocks a large amount.
They used to keep some.
They used to keep some, but like I said, everything's digital these days. Even with consoles, like I'm half and half. I like to, if there's a game that I really like, I do my best to get physical media of it, but then I've got a big digital library as well. And that's the same with the PC, like you can just go into Steam and download any games. So, like games I'm thinking of now for PC is things like Age of Empires, which I remember playing. TJ would appreciate Age of Mythology. Was a game he played a lot on my computer, which is another game that I think I should probably try and get again. And by the way, if you're a fan of Age of Empires 2, it just dropped on Game Pass in the last couple of days for Xbox. So finally to console. I'm a bit hyped about that, to be honest, just like GoldenEye was. That's all I can really think of for PC games at the moment, off the top of my head, without going to crap like Lemmings and things like that when I was really little. But yeah, that's more of a console gamer, but did my don't mind a PC game here and there. In fact, I've got Minecraft and them installed on this PC as well. So and Fortnite, even though that game's sort of on the back burner at the moment. All right, so I guess we'll get ready to wrap things up here. It's been a good couple of hours just talking about what we've got here. But as we have been saying, we've produced our shows from 2 studios. So there's another studio with even more stuff there to show off. I want to do something to sign off on here. Actually, I went and grabbed the wireless Nintendo controller. There. That's the controller there. You can't put anything in the back. Would have been
cool if they left that, like, you could just
as a
pop
slot.
something in there. Even like, you know, they leave a blank in there, and then you can pull it out and just put something in there just for the fun of it. I can see why they wouldn't.
It's probably got the battery pack actually in there.
Yeah.
And then that's the additions at the top is the 2 buttons, ZR button, and
Have we tried to play like Smash Ultimate or anything like that on this?
no,
That'd be a cool
need to
idea.
try that. When I played, so we had a power outage the other night, and I booted the Switch up and played a bit of GoldenEye, and the control scheme on the Switch Online and the Nintendo Switch is a little bit rough. So I thought, oh, I've got this, I'll plug this in, and yeah, it's normal when you play with this, so that's cool.
Games like GoldenEye were always perfect with that controller because that Z button literally feels like a trigger. Like I used to play GoldenEye sometimes. I'd literally hold just in one hand the controller, you know, moving around like that, and just shooting with the trigger like it's like a gun shape almost.
Just run around. There's a trigger in the back. Oh, it's lighting up there. All right, to sign off, I think I want to do something here just to finish the video off. In that we have in the studio right now, how many generations of PlayStation?
5?
5.
All
PlayStation
5.
And we're going to line them up. So if I can actually grab, and you know, people say, oh, it's not the original PlayStation controller, whatever, it's still a PlayStation 1. Reverse it. Yeah, there should be an official one in there somewhere.
Roll with this one.
With that said, this technically isn't, but that's okay. Actually, this one is. Yeah, this one is. The other one isn't. Because of the logo.
Looks good.
All right, to finish off, I'm gonna show you, present this. I'm gonna grab the camera off, which I don't usually do. Let's see if we can get this. Did I line it up correctly? Yes, I did.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That there is retro gaming. Then, now, forever, to steal a tagline from a company. But PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The DualShock 2, 3, DualShock 4. Actually, I think this is called something else. I think this is the 6. No, this is the 6 axis. There's a. Oh, it's a DualShock 3 6 axis. So this one is when they introduced motion controls. That's the 6 axis.
Oh, the gyro sensor.
And then touchpad, and then this one had the capture button and haptic triggers. So that is 5 generations of PlayStation controller form laid out for you. We don't actually have all the consoles that they go with because we don't have the PS4 anymore, but I think that's a nice, cool thing. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode. Spent a good, like I said, good couple of hours talking about what we've got here. We're going to do a follow-up video to this one in a couple of weeks' time when we emulate from the other studio. But yeah, it's been good to talk about what we've got here. Good trip down memory lane. And just a reminder of the start of the video. This has been a long video. Some of the things we're doing, so don't forget to subscribe to Retro Replay 1UP. That's www.youtube.com/@RetroReplay1up, and you're going to find a bunch of news, retro things uploaded there. Zion, you're going to be hosting a new show, and I guess we'll just think, how do you want to name it? I mean, Melee with Zion. Do you want Super Smash Brothers added to the front of that? What can we expect it to be called?
Well, depends on like say what days we do this. If we're simply if it's something we do like maybe every Sunday or so, not to borrow from an old Team Oxy tournament series that used to run for Smash Brothers Melee, but there is Super Smash Sundays.
Super Smash Sundays. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Once we finalise all that, so we're just announcing that. Once we finalise all the proper details and all that, we'll throw up on our Twitter, which you'll find on the screen below. The Port Royal Network's generic, well not generic, but the main Twitter account for Port Royal Network at Port Royal TV. So we'll announce that there. What else are we going to say? So Retro Replay live every Thursday here on Port Royal Gaming. We are planning the network to do something of a bit of a video essay sort of thing, video documentary style deep dive in the coming months. So this is what we're looking forward to in 2023. We are going to pick franchises and just deep dive into them and giving a bit of a history lesson, and not only history of, but our experience with it as well, just to give that bit more personalised views on it. So keep an eye out for that. So already, I'm going to leave it up to our editors to sort of pick their poison, so to speak, as we go month by month. Hopefully, hoping to get these out at least every 2 months, in between everything else. So something to think about. Keep that in mind. Think about what franchise you want to present on Retro Replay 1UP. And I know you probably think, all these games go through, but we'll, something to look forward to, and we'll sort all that details out as we get to it. We've got the Extra Life series happening on 1UP, so every time we get a bunch of new things, a new video we uploaded in the coming days. And I think I could do one over the weekend as well, so there'll be a few more of those episodes put up. And we announced that, I think we'll stick with Simpsons Hit and Run starting next week on Retro Replay. And we're going to look at doing series here and there, just to keep it going and moving forward. So that's what we've got planned coming up for you. Thanks for being part of the channel. I'm going to leave it at that for this episode, running out of time. Thanks for joining us. Zion, looking forward to presenting the next video of this series from your place.
Yes. I've probably gonna have to do some rearranging, because back at I haven't got everything all in the one room neatly. How this is here, I've kind of got some stuff mixed in between two rooms, but I'll sort that out by then.
Yeah, it's going to be same as this one, but casual, but laid back. So if you do need to duck it here, in and out, and that's all good. All right, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks for joining us here on Port Royal Gaming for Retro Replay. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter using at Port Royal TV. You can find our Twitter there. Follow our Instagram at Retro Replay 1UP. We're also on Twitch. I need to add a Twitch little icon there, at Port Royal Gaming. Thanks for watching tonight's episode, and if you like tonight's episode, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button to support us, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date for when our new content is going up. But for now, until next time, thanks for joining us, and it is goodbye.